Thankfully Blessed and Rooted in the Word. I'm Nicole, a believer who has just recently read through the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and now I want to dive deeper. That's what this channel is all about. For us to grow in God's Word, to understand the book chapter by chapter, and to just dive into what He's telling us. We hope that you'll join us on our journey and come along to get rooted in the Word. Welcome to Thankfully Blessed and Rooted in the Word. I'm Nicole, and this is Dawson. We're glad that you joined us as we start on Daniel chapter 3. Dawson is going to talk louder this week, or this day, so that you can hear him a little bit better. We're working on getting mics, so just bear with us. Let's open with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time to just take a moment to dive into your word and see what the words are speaking to our hearts. We ask that you open up our mind and our hearts to hear your word and the message that you want for us. Let the words we speak today honor you and come from you. Don't let them be of us, but for you. We ask that we just gain knowledge and insight into who you are, what you want from us, and what the words of the Bible are meant for us to hear. We thank you for this time that we can just be in your word and learning more about you. In Jesus' precious name, amen. All right, so chapter 3 is likely during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar after Daniel's promotion in chapter 2. Remember, Daniel got a promotion because he was able to not only interpret the dream, but he actually knew what the dream meant. Some scholars place this around 594 BC to 593 BC, possibly tied to a rebellion against Babylon that promoted a unifying loyalty test. Daniel is notably absent in this account, possibly on royal business elsewhere. The Babylonian religious politics, Nebuchadnezzar sets up a golden image, possibly modeled after the statue in his dream, but entirely of gold, rejecting God's message that his kingdom would be temporary. The height of this statue is going to be roughly 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, which is 6 cubits, and the dimensions suggest a tall column with an image on top. The dedication was both political and religious, and refusal was seen as treason. And this is going to be important because if you've ever heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thank you. You know that they get tossed into a furnace, and we're going to read about that today. So Babylon used superheated furnaces for brick making and executions. 7 times hotter means as hot as possible, not literally 7-fold hotter. This chapter is still in Aramaic. Some of the words are, can't even pronounce it. So it's Tessalum. It means image or statue. It has the same root as in Genesis 1:26 of image of God. So here it's an image of idolatry. You laugh, you try to say
it. I can't do that.
Another one is Shigita. Oh, any of you that know Aramaic are going to be so angry at me. And it means to worship or bow down. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their Babylonian names appear consistently in this chapter, emphasizing the cultural pressure to conform. And Bar-Elohim means son of God. Nebuchadnezzar uses polytheistic language, poly meaning many, to describe the fourth man in the fire. Theologically, this points to a divine or angelic deliverer, possibly a Christophany, which means appearance of Christ. So let's dive into chapter 3. I will be reading out of the ESV for our first read through. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits and its breadth 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And then the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And the herald proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace." Therefore, as soon as all the people heard the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Do you think King Nebuchadnezzar set it up?
I mean, he had it built.
It says, I don't know how many times already King Nebuchadnezzar had set up.
Well, I mean, this is like when you build anything. So there's somebody always setting up the build project.
Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and maliciously accused the Jews. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression on his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he ordered some of the mighty men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace. He declared, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire. And the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come up upon them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants, who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree. Any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their house laid in ruins, for there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'm sure you'll cover them.
Okay. If I don't,
I'll tell you.
pick them. All right. So we're going to kind of break it down a little now. Read over it. Of course, I'm now reading from the NIV. This is NIV. But it's a Life Application Bible, so it has study notes that we'll kind of cover. Chapter 3. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of God, 60 cubits. Not God. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, and magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "Nations and people of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, all the nations and peoples of every language fell down and worshipped the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So in my notes, what?
For you, do you think this sounds kind of out there, but like in chapter 2, he had a dream of a statue, a giant statue,
Right.
about all the kingdoms. Think he built that statue to kind of say that, God, you're wrong, and I will be here for, like, to act out?
Do you think he was listening when I read my notes? I don't think he was.
Did you say that at the
Because
beginning?
I said, let's see.
I probably wasn't. I was busy getting my Bible.
Nebuchadnezzar sets up a golden image, possibly modeled after the statue in his dream, but entirely gold, rejecting God's message that his kingdom would be temporary.
Okay, my bad. I missed it.
All right.
Whoops.
So, in Babylon's religion culture, statues were frequently worshipped as gods. Nebuchadnezzar hoped to use this huge image as part of his strategy to centralize worship in order to unite the nation and solidify his power. The gold statue may have been inspired by his dream. Instead of having only a head of gold, however, it was gold from head to toe. Nebuchadnezzar wanted his kingdom to last forever. When he made the statue, Nebuchadnezzar showed that his devotion to Daniel's God was short-lived. Because remember in chapter 2, he talked about how Daniel's God was a great, wonderful God, right?
Right.
And only Daniel's God could do what he did.
Right.
So he neither feared nor obeyed God who was behind the dream. Says the blazing furnace was not a small oven for cooking dinner or heating a house. Which is funny because that does make sense, but I never thought of it. So they threw 3 bodies in.
You always thought of it in a little furnace?
Not a little furnace, but I guess I never thought somebody might think of it that way.
I guess, okay.
You know?
I was like, I always see it as like this giant, massive oven that's like maybe the size of a small house. I don't know.
Maybe it's like
a factory oven, like you know how they like make metal and.
So it's like the oven in Santa Claus 3.
Yeah, that kind of an oven. Yeah. Okay.
So it was a huge industrial furnace that could have been used for baking bricks, smelting metals, or forging Nebuchadnezzar's golden statue. The temperatures would have been hot enough that no human being could have survived them. The roaring flames could be seen leaping from its large opening, and a fiery blast instantly killed the soldiers who approached it.
Can we just point out that this is for making bricks, yet it's so hot that no human could survive it? How do they make anything out of it if they can't get near it?
They can't. What he's saying is that
When they turn
when,
it hot
when he
enough.
turned it hotter, like at that point. But I mean, it's a hot fire. When you get close to it, it would be miserable. You wouldn't stay near it long because it would have to be pretty hot to melt gold and to form it into what you want it to be.
I wish I knew how, like, what it was like, because it makes me curious how they heat that up. Because they would have just been using like wood or coal.
Yeah.
They wouldn't use what we use now.
All right, so back to our reading. At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. Your Majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your Majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up."
Tattletales.
Yeah, kind of, right? So who were these astrologers? These were the same magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers mentioned earlier who could not explain or interpret Nebuchadnezzar's dream. They were highly educated people who studied the skies. Daniel saved them from death when he interpreted the king's dream, but here they were maliciously trying to tear down Daniel's friends. And you got to remember, Daniel made Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego important.
Right.
He asked for that.
Right.
So even though they were targets of these men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't cast blame or become angry with them. They firmly trusted in God, whatever the outcome, even if it meant sacrificing their very lives. So we don't know if other Jews refused to fall down and worship the statue, but these three were singled out as public examples. The men could have bowed to the image, convincing themselves that God knew their hearts, but they had determined never to worship another god, and they courageously took their stand. As a result, they were condemned, and they courageously took their stand. As a result, they were condemned and led away to be executed. The men did not know whether they would be delivered from the fire. All they knew was that they would not fall down and worship a false god. Really makes you wonder where Daniel's at, because he wouldn't have bowed down.
Well, yeah, because
And
he'd
it
have been
said
more against it than
everybody was brought to it.
He
It's
must,
strange.
and he'd still been in Babylon's like council and stuff because
Right.
he wouldn't have been out of it yet.
Maybe Daniel was there, but they felt Daniel was untouchable.
Maybe.
Because
But why wouldn't he
they
try
don't
to save
say-
his friends? I guess. Like
How would he go against the king?
I don't know.
How would he save him?
I guess to talk. You know, he's like high up in his advisors, though.
But
I don't know.
he still falls under the king's rule.
Maybe.
All right. So now we'll go on to verse 13. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of God I have set up? Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it. and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up.
So, when he says, who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? It's like he's tempting God. Try to deliver them from my hands.
God's more powerful than you, the king.
Every time you say it makes you think like, yeah, there's no way you're more powerful than me.
Yeah, let me show you.
Yeah.
So Nebuchadnezzar does offer them a second chance, but they refuse. It's considered a famous confession. Our God is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will not serve your gods. And this is faith without presumption. So they trust God's power and will, regardless of the outcome. And this is how we're supposed to be. We know that God can cure us of cancer. We know that God can take us out of a financial burden. We know he can do this. We have to have that belief and that trust. But that doesn't mean he will. So in my little study notes here, it says that Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage when anyone dared to disobey his commands. We kind of gathered that from the first chapter, right?
Right.
His official that was over Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego
was terrified.
Like, he wanted to do what Daniel wanted, but...
Well, I mean, you even see it in the second one.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't tell him what he wanted, and he killed him.
Yeah, he was going to. Yeah.
I know he did some, didn't he?
No, Daniel stopped it. Remember?
Right. Okay, that's true.
So, as the supreme ruler of Babylonia, he expected absolute obedience. But his pride had caused him to forget that there was an authority even higher than his own. With this deluded thinking, his demands became unjust and his reactions extreme. And then the three men were given one more chance. Here are 8 excuses they could have used to bow to the statue and save their lives. 1. We will bow but not actually worship the idol. 2. We won't become idol worshippers. We will worship this image this one time and then ask God for forgiveness. 3. The king has absolute power and we must obey him. God will understand. 4. The king appointed us. We owe this to him. 5. This is a foreign land, so God will excuse us for following the customs of the land. 6. Our ancestors set up idols in God's temple. This isn't half as bad. 7. We're not hurting anybody. 8. If we get ourselves killed and some pagans take our high positions, they won't help our people in exile. So,
I mean, all those, I guess, are kind of true, but the way I see it as like just a way to cop out.
Okay.
Like,
so
there's a couple of those that I can see like a good reason for, but most of them, like, we're just going to do it this one time. It's not this one time, though. They did it. It had been multiple times. Every time that he played the music, they would have to bow.
Okay. So put that on your own life.
Oh, yeah. That definitely...
What things are you doing because the world does them, and we justify it, and then ask God for forgiveness, or God will understand, or... Like, it's easy for us to read this and be like, oh, that's not what God wants. Oh, they shouldn't do that. But then when you bring it back to today's times, if you wrote out your life story, where are the points you can catch that were like, oh, I should have done what God wanted instead?
There's a few of them.
Yeah.
I thought of that.
So although all these excuses sound sensible at first, they are dangerous rationalizations. To bow before the image would violate God's command in Exodus 23. You shall have no other gods before me. It would also erase the men's testimony for God forever. They wouldn't have been in the Bible. Never again could they talk about the power of their God above all other gods. So, I love this. What excuses do you use for not standing up for him?
I usually don't use an excuse at all. I usually just don't say anything.
That's just as bad.
I know it is, but I'm just saying, like, I'm the type of person that doesn't even say anything. I just let it go. Which is just as bad, like you said.
So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were ordered to deny God, but they chose to be faithful to him no matter what happened. They were confident that God could deliver them, but they were determined to be faithful regardless of the consequences, even if it threatened their personal safety. More notes? Nope. All right. So now we're going to go back to verse 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual, and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. So it is so hot that the men that are carrying them to toss them in are able to toss them in, but they die. Right?
Right.
That's what you read?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what's even crazier about that? This would have been like, these guys are even stronger than, like...
Yeah, but I don't know that strength has anything to do with when you battle heat, right?
Yeah, but like, these guys would have been stronger and more, like, probably tolerance to, like, pain and stuff like that. They burned immediately, where those 3 didn't even burn when they got close.
We're not there yet. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods."
Yeah, but on ESV, it says, an angel of God.
Okay.
So
basically, whoever's in there with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego
was not from this earth. That's what it was. Yeah. I mean, that's obvious.
Whatever terminology is used.
I was just pointing out that it did say angel here.
It looked like a 4th human figure, but there was something about that 4th figure that stood out as not being a human.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Something of some kind. Or the fact that he was just standing in fire.
Yeah.
And appeared out of nowhere.
That too.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about it. So hot, the soldiers that threw them in died instantly. Yet Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are bound in rope. And when Nebuchadnezzar looks in, he sees them up walking around. I wonder what conversation they were having.
That's a good question. Because they never say.
They don't.
They're probably being very grateful, I would think, in that moment.
Oh, I guarantee it.
They were thinking they're about to get burnt to a crisp, and then all of a sudden this person just shows up and they're fine.
Can you imagine being in heaven asking Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego about the fire? So what'd you talk about?
Yeah. Who are you having a conversation with? Who was the person in the fire?
Oh, I think it was Jesus.
I mean, could have been. Could have been Gabriel. I mean, because when Daniel gets stoned, I mean, there's all sorts of different stories that angels come and save them.
But we're in the Old Testament. The Old Testament, when they are talking about an angel, the terminology usually means God or Jesus. And
See, I didn't know this.
And in January, when we start Genesis, it will piece it all together a little bit better. So that is the one thing I've loved about reading through the Bible from beginning to end, because it's different.
Things you never know until you talk to your mom.
Or find a way to study. All right. So now let's get back into 26, because nobody wants to listen to us all night. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come here." Why would they come out?
I don't know, but
God.
he's singing a different tune now.
He is singing a different tune. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. So if their robes were not scorched. Whew. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble. For no other God can save in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
You think when he says that, he truly means it this time?
I don't know.
Because he said that in chapter 2 with Daniel.
I know.
And that's why Daniel got to the position that he did.
He got promoted.
Yeah, but
And
then
then Daniel promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So now we're back to your God is the only God that can do this.
And everybody else jumps up first and they don't agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
I don't know.
you know, you ever think that we do that though?
Oh, yeah.
Like, one moment we're like all in, the next moment we fall away, and then we fall back in.
So in my notes it says, God's deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was a great victory of faith for the Jews in captivity. God protected them from harm, comforted them in their trial, and showed that he alone is the true God over all. King Nebuchadnezzar was completely amazed and overwhelmed that he turned from his anger, not only glorifying God, but also promoting the 3 men he had tried to burn alive. It was obvious to those watching that this 4th person was supernatural. We cannot be certain who the 4th man was. It could have been an angel from God or a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus. In either case, God sent a heavenly visitor to accompany these faithful men during their time of great trial. And that's what we need to remember. It was just somebody from the heavenly realm. These young men had been completely untouched by the fire and heat. Apparently, only the rope that bound them had been burnt. That part still, it's pretty cool. The rope's gone, but the clothes are fine, the hair is fine. They don't even smell like fire. And fire has a very distinct smell.
You don't even have to be close to it to smell like it sometimes.
Yeah. Nebuchadnezzar was not making a commitment here to serve the Hebrews' God alone. That is something important to remember.
Right, because it's
different. He did not say he was going to worship their God.
Right.
He did, however, he was acknowledging God's power, and he commanded his people not to speak against God. Nebuchadnezzar didn't tell the people to throw away all the other gods, but to add this one to the list of other gods the people worshipped.
And yet another question answered in one session.
And then it says, where was Daniel in this story? The Bible doesn't say, but there are several possibilities. He may have been on official business in another part of the kingdom. He may have been in the capital city handling the administration while Nebuchadnezzar was away. He may have been considered exempt from bowing to the image because of his reputation for interpreting dreams through his God. Whether Daniel was there or not, we can be sure that he would not have worshipped the statue.
Yeah, that was the obvious.
Nebuchadnezzar might not realize that Daniel's God and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego God are the same.
I never thought of it that way.
Because Nebuchadnezzar had many gods.
Right.
So why wouldn't the Hebrews have many gods?
Well, I guess that's true, because the Hebrews probably...
I mean, I don't know that he's ever tried to find out, but he may not realize they're the same God. Because he said their God, not Daniel's God.
True.
I wonder.
This is true. Huh. There's probably nowhere you could look to find it either, though.
Oh, probably not.
Because this is one of those, when you get to heaven, ask.
Yeah.
Except we won't care, but still. It's there.
All right. Anything else, thoughts before we end for the evening?
Nope.
All right. So as you go out into the world after studying Daniel a little bit deeper, I hope you'll thank God for his presence in your trials. You'll ask for courage to obey him even when the cost is high, and that we pray for those facing persecution to be strengthened and delivered. I know it's kind of hard. It's real easy to see that they did the right thing and that they made the right choice. But it wasn't easy for them, just like it's not easy for us. So I hope that from chapter 3, you just learn that God rewards those who honor him. And I hope you'll come back tomorrow night as we dive into chapter 4. I think it's about another dream. And we want to thank you for joining us here at Thankfully Blessed and Rooted in the Word. Night.